Hi everybody, this is Amber Kane from amberkane.com, and today I'm sitting down to talk to Rebecca Bryan from Whisk and Brush. Rebecca and I went to Messiah College together, and I'm really excited to share with you this really new company that is starting to promote good eating, good art, and good time with friends. So I hope that you enjoy this interview, and if you do, please share it with your friends so that they can find out about how to get connected with Whisk and Brush as well. Start by telling us your idea and the mission behind Whisk and Brush.
Yeah, Whisk and Brush, there are several, hopefully there will be several stages to the progression of Whisk and Brush, but starting out, it's going to be a website that it provides information and inspiration for people to explore the worlds of food and art. And it really came about pretty naturally for me because food and art are so much a part of my life already. But it started to take form at the beginning of this year. I was in a job I was totally unhappy with, and also coming along with that was my boyfriend was telling me, you're cooking all the time, why don't you blog it? You're making these crafts and art pieces all the time, why don't you sell them? So it was really kind of like the perfect storm was starting to brew, and with enough unhappiness in a job and enough satisfaction and happiness in my personal life, Whisk and Brush was born out of those two things.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. It's good when you can figure out how to do what you just do in your spare time anyway.
Right, exactly. And I think that I had always kind of felt like my interests and my love for food and art would stay as a hobby for the rest of my life, because I didn't necessarily feel a huge pull to do blogging, and I didn't necessarily feel a huge pull to just create work to sell it. Although, I mean, both are amazing opportunities, and there are people who do it so well. Right. I just didn't know if that was the right calling for me. And so now seeing it kind of come together, more so as a brand and growing from that than anything else, has been really exciting.
Yeah, cool. So as you decided that you were going to make a go for this, what are some of the steps that you had to put in motion to get your idea from just an idea to actually a reality?
Well, the first thing I had to start doing was just get in the practice of documenting what I was attempting. So, I mean, the way I cook in the kitchen is kind of throwing things together and randomly trying stuff, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not work. And the same with my art. I've never been a super methodical artist or even a perfectionist, and I know that many artists are. It was always kind of like winging it and see what happened. So it took a lot of discipline to get onto the wagon of writing down the changes I was making to recipes, really thinking about the process for creating a piece of art. And that was kind of the first thing that I had to get used to. And moving forward, once I began to think about the business aspect of it, I started considering people I already had in my life who would be great supporters, if not team members. And then the step following that was getting involved with a nonprofit here that supports local women entrepreneurs. And that's been a huge springboard for me as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I know sometimes remembering like, oh shoot, I should actually take a picture of that, and I need to, it's easy to just sort of fly through the process and then realize you forgot to document it.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there was one night when I made this really wonderful like Mexican bean dip baked taco thing, and my apartment smelled so good, and I was so pumped about it that I literally scarfed it down, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, whoops. I needed to take a picture.
Yeah.
Definitely getting in the practice of those things.
So I saw on Facebook that you were shooting a cooking show. Are you planning on trying to have that as a regular feature on Whisk and Brush, or where do you hope to see that going?
Yeah, the goal is to provide a few, multiple ways for people to be inspired to learn through what we're posting on Whisk and Brush. So whether that's through reading our articles, or through actually doing recipes in their own home, or going out and exploring, new food places around their home, or watching a video. We want to be able to provide inspiration on a few different platforms. That particular video was something that I just, once again, was winging it and thought, hey, I feel like doing a cooking show today. And I grabbed my photographer and we went down to the beach and we did an outdoor cooking show. And we were thinking that we would post it right away. Mm-hmm. But I think as we're in the early stages, it's important to make sure that we're, sending along information about Whisk and Brush in a way that makes sense to our viewers. And since they're new to learning who we are and we're new to the business aspect, we're trying to be careful about what we put out there. Mm-hmm. I think cooking shows will eventually be a part, cooking demonstrations.
Right.
That was something we kind of had to go at, and then we're like, whoops, maybe we should wait a little bit until we can perfect this. So, trial and error.
Right. So is your photographer a friend of yours, or so do they take some of your photos and then you take some, or how does that work for you?
Right, so what's really wonderful is that everybody, there's about 8 of us who will be eventually contributing and working with Whisk and Brush. Right now, since it's so new, I'm having to kind of lay the groundwork for everything. But so far, everyone on the team is some kind of friend or connection that I already had, which is really exciting because you get to really tap into people's talents and gifts and spotlight them. So the photographer that we have is Alex Torres. He's a local photographer. He's just getting started as well. He's absolutely phenomenal and super patient, which you want in a team member. And so he has taken some photos. He's also done some filming for us. And then we're also finding that, iPhones are great and our own cameras are great. And to be perfectly honest, there are so many wonderful programs out there to provide really clean, crisp, yummy pictures. Mm-hmm. That Alex is a good supporter. He's an amazing editor, photo editor too. And so right now we're all kind of doing our own thing of how we're photographing what we're doing, mm-hmm. and handing it off to Alex to kind of clean up for us. But it's been fun. We're all learning and perfecting this process.
Very. So I know that you worked on doing some crowdfunding, and how did you choose what platform you were going to use? Because I know there are lots of different options. I forget what you even used. I had never heard of it before, but.
Yeah, I chose to go with Indiegogo.
Okay.
I think that many of the crowdfunding platforms provide flexible funding, which means that you, if you don't reach your goal, you still are able to keep the contributions that are given. But I think for a while, Kickstarter was full funding only. So unless you hit your goal, you didn't receive a penny. And for us, I found that Indiegogo was very easy to work with. It had a really nice format, and we were, like I keep saying, we're so new that we were up for keeping whatever contributions people wanted to give. We were really grateful and appreciative for that, and every little bit helped just for getting off the ground here. So that was probably the main reason why we went with Indiegogo.
Okay. And so were you happy with your overall experience? Would you consider using them again?
As far as Indiegogo goes, it was a great platform. I was really happy with it. And like I said, we were honored with the donations that we received. Our goal was 6,500. We got close to 2,500, which was really phenomenal. But as far as the whole crowdfunding experience, I have to say it was way more daunting and way more of a roller coaster for me than I thought, because for 30 days, we chose a campaign that was 30 days long, and for 30 days, day in and day out, you're just thinking, how am I going to reach more people? How am I putting myself out there? Are we going to get any donations today? We haven't received anything for 5 days. What am I doing wrong? I mean, it really takes its toll on you. And there are people who are absolutely phenomenal fundraisers, and it's their jam, and they love it. It is not mine. I think the last time I did any fundraising, I was like in 4th grade selling, Christmas wrapping paper. I just wanted to like be able to receive the flashlight that was going to be my selling it. So I just, at this point, it felt more awkward for me than what I thought, just because I hadn't really prepared myself mentally for 30 days of putting myself out there.
Yeah.
But it was a really great learning experience, and crowdfunding is such an amazing tool for startups. It absolutely is. It gets people behind you. They can rally for you, and it provides you with something to work with.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's an interesting perspective, and not really thinking about how much you have to sort of expose yourself and put yourself out there when you're trying to do one of those campaigns. And I'm sure kind of the like watching, just hoping someone else gives you some money.
Right.
So was that mainly you that were promoting that, or were all of your team members helping to promote that?
Something I was doing on my own. Okay. My team members were really helpful in the way of just reposting things on Facebook and tweeting about it. But I was needing to pull together information about Whisk and Brush to keep people updated on who we are and what we're doing. I'm finding that when you're talking about reaching multiple demographics, something like an online community or a web-based company can kind of fall through the cracks for certain people who want to give their support, but maybe don't entirely understand the concept.
Right.
So it was important to, kind of tweak along the way and make sure that what we were saying and how we were presenting ourselves it was being fine-tuned all the time.
Yeah, that is challenging, because you have, a couple minutes in a video to try and get people to actually understand what your mission is and what you're trying to do and what you're going to do with their money and why they should give it to you, and to actually make that come across clearly.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and instead of feeling frustrated by it, it was an opportunity for me to work on perfecting our business plan and what our mission was and how we wanted to convey that. So, I mean, in every step of a startup, I'm just realizing there's nothing you do that is not worth the learning experience. There's just not. Even the stuff that isn't very fun, it's so worth just diving into and getting your hands dirty.
Right. I think that's very true, and I think there are definitely times where then it comes back to you and it makes more sense. But it is a process you kind of have to just buckle down and go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like your idea of hosting the events with the food and art and kind of your vision of taking that all over the place eventually. So can you talk more about how you envision that working, and then if people wanted to get involved, how they would go about doing so?
Yeah, it's something that I think out of all of the stuff we're doing, I think the team members and myself are most jazzed about the event, because it's really going to be an opportunity for Whisk and Brush to come to life. The website's absolutely necessary, and we're going to love putting up original recipes and interviewing artists like yourself and local businesses and all that. But the events are going to be something that we will do on a quarterly basis. They'll be very seasonal. We'll take tickets for it, and we're going to start within the area we're in, which is Bridgeport, Connecticut. So we would a Whisk and Brush evening would look something like coming for a multi-course meal that we make of our own recipes and our own original work. We would have local artists showing their artwork in the venue, and we would have live music and also our own products there for, just viewing or purchasing. But there's there's multiple things happening for the event. One, Whisk and Brush gets to come to life, like I said. We get to support the local artists, or visual and musical artists, and it provides an alternative for people to do something other than their typical dinner or going out to their same restaurant or anything like that. And it's something unique and different. We hope to eventually expand so that we can kind of jump around to different pockets that we have connections in throughout the country and put on these events.
That's really, really cool. And I'm trying to remember who this person is, but it has not come to me yet. There's a website called Smart Creative Women, and she interviews business women working in the creative field. And I know that I listened to one with a woman that did this sort of events all over the place. And so I'm trying to remember her name so that you could listen to the interview and connect with her, but I can't remember.
It's Smart Creative Women. That's what the group is called.
Yeah, that's what the website's called. And every week she puts up another interview, and I know it's on there somewhere, but there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know when I remember what the heck her name is.
Well, what's been really wonderful is that just because we are a very food-based company so far, we've been asked to do a few catering events, cool. Which I keep telling people, we're not a catering company. We don't want to necessarily turn down opportunities to get ourselves out there, meet new people, and cook. I mean, anytime we can cook, we'll be happy. So that's something that we're kind of taking advantage of, and it's giving us a good idea of what it takes to pull off events, and small catering events for 10 or 20 people, and then we catered the opening of Beehive Bridgeport, which is an amazing co-working space that just opened here. We catered their opening event, and they had over 300 people come through their door that night.
Oh,
so,
my God.
I mean, that was going from 0 to 100 in half a second.
Yeah.
But you learn. I mean, I think a lot of us startups and entrepreneurs just feel toss me in there and I'll learn. One of my semi-pseudo business advisors here was telling me, she was look, at this point, you cannot afford to turn down opportunities. Mm-hmm. You say yes, and you figure it out later.
Yeah. So how was cooking for 300 people? That sounds crazy to me.
Well, we did, it was a lot of mixing and mingle, so we mostly did finger foods.
Okay.
But it was fun because, some things were super simple. I think having a combination of very simple, easy, classic things like fruit skewers, and having, we made our own recipe of corn salsa, but it was just chips and salsa. Yeah. But then it provided us an opportunity to have room to really experiment with some other things. So we were able to come up with some very cool, interesting, original recipes to serve there. For the venue, and it was fun. It worked out really well, and like I keep saying, my team members are absolutely incredible and totally step up to the plate when I say yes to these crazy things. So I have very patient people who are working with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's great.
So I also saw that you did a fast track entrepreneurial program. So how did that work? And then what were some of the most valuable pieces of advice that you feel like you learned from doing that?
The entrepreneurial program was things I could have done for myself. And I would suggest to anybody who wants to do a startup, there's so much support out there now, nonprofits or through the huge program SCORE, which sets you up with mentors, and they're all across the country. I mean, it can be daunting otherwise, and it's amazing to get yourself plugged into some kind of program that's there to kind of hold your hand. So I worked with the Women's Business Development Council here in Stamford, and they have a ton of different courses and workshops. But one I took was the Fast Track Entrepreneurial Training Program, and it was 9 weeks, once a week, and we got together for 3 hours at a time. And it was a group of, I think it was about 15 other individuals who all had startup ideas. And what was great is we were all at different places in our process. So some people came in trying to figure out what kind of startup they wanted to do. Other people already had been doing it for about a year or two. In fact, we even had, it was such a wonderful mix of people. We had a dad and his daughter-in-law come to the class. They have MGM Carting, which is a woman-owned garbage company here in Connecticut, and they've already they wanted to refresh their business plan, so they were there. And so what happened, you get a whole array of information and advice, not only from our amazing instructor, but also from the other people who were there in the class and all at different places. So it was not only beneficial just going through the program and learning step by step how you come up with a business plan and what you need, but just learning from them was invaluable. I mean, I took so much away from that class. I felt like I was stealing. Just so worth it. And we're staying in touch and encouraging one another and keeping one another accountable. And those are the kinds of relationships as a startup that you have to make, because you have some pretty terrible days and some pretty exciting days, and you want people to partake in both of them.
Right. So I hadn't written this question down, but it just kind of popped into my head because as a teacher, I'm always getting asked from my students and their parents where they should go to school, if they should go to a 4-year college, a 2-year college, like what the heck they should do with their lives. And so I know you went to Messiah because we went there together. So how do you feel that your education from Messiah has played a role in your journey as well as to where you are now?
Oh my gosh.
I know, that was a hard one that I just threw at you.
Good question. I mean, I feel like we're about to go into a counseling session and I'm going to start crying about my life path here. The thing is, everybody chooses different paths, whether it's going to college or going right into the workforce or taking some years off and doing, a mission or, Peace Corps, something like that. And I think no matter what you do, you end up looking back over the years and you feel like, now I know why that plays a role. Now I know what I learned from there. And, I went into college thinking that I was going to be an art teacher, and then halfway through, I decided to drop the education aspect of it and focus on art. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and the little nugget that I held to all through college and even right after graduation was that I knew I wanted to create. I knew that it was in to do something with my hands and with my imagination and with starting something from really nothing. And so I went towards my artwork, which has evolved over the years. And now it's coming to the surface as a startup. But I would have never thought that I was capable of that or I would ever have a desire for that when I was in school, because there's such a business aspect to it that I just didn't think I could ever really dive into. But you look back, and I think about conversations I had with professors. I think about the way we as students worked on projects together and in forming ideas and executing them and seeing them come to fruition. And it all plays a part now in what it means to be a business owner and a founder of something. So regardless of what you go to school for or whether you go to school or not, I think it's just always interesting to constantly take an inventory of where you've been, what you've been doing, and how it all ties together. Because there are there are very few things in our life, I think, that happen without ever coming back full circle. Just as we are. We're full circle people. That's how we were created.
Right. I think it's also really good to give yourself permission to, let your path change, that you don't always have to do what you went to school to do. I mean, I went to school to be an art teacher and became an art teacher and never envisioned starting a business, and that kind of just was born itself and kept on growing and has gone so many directions that I never would have imagined, and I've done so many things and had really, really awesome experiences that I would have never had I just really focused on, like, I spent all this money to go to school to be an art teacher, and so I'm just going to be an art teacher. And just kind of saying, you know what, I'm enjoying this, and I'm just going to keep saying yes to new experiences and give them a try. Like, even if it's horrible, it's just, like a day or something. So, and really, they haven't even been horrible. They've all been really, really interesting things that I think have also made me a better teacher. But it's good to remember that
Absolutely.
just because you went to college for one thing doesn't mean you can't venture in different ways.
Right. I think probably the key for anyone moving through life is finding the consistency and the discipline you need to continue working at whatever it is your path is bringing towards you. And, we see on TV and other interviews people who have made it big, and they talk about humble beginnings, and you think, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And, they tell their story in 2.5 minutes. And so you're like, well, I want that to happen in 2.5 minutes.
Right.
But it takes an enormous amount of discipline day in and day out when you don't feel like it. And that's been a big hurdle for me, but something I'm really learning from, to know what it means to get up in the morning and put on my big girl pants and sing, regardless of whether I feel like it or not that day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes people are like, why over the summer are you still getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning? And I'm like, well, because I am running a business, and the summer is the time when I can, like, really put a lot of energy into it. And so I don't really look at the summer necessarily as my time off. Plus, I found I am not happy or nearly as fulfilled if I would sleep in until like 8 o'clock every day and then kind of like mess around. I am fulfilled by being very productive and using my talents, and so I'm in a better mood if I just get up. So my last question for you is, what else would you want people to know about Whisk and Brush, and who can get involved and how can they get involved?
Well, right now we are working on just putting a lot of information on social media. Our website is scheduled to launch September 1st. Cool. But up until that point, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, Tumblr, LinkedIn. We're trying to infiltrate that social media as much as we can. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great way of just following us, staying up to date on what we're doing, getting an idea of all the different components we have. But then even moving forward, once we have the website launched, we're going to be a great community for sharing ideas, discussing the things that we post. We want to hear people back and if they cook a recipe and make adjustments, we want to hear how it worked out for them. If they, we'll eventually have an opportunity set up on the website for people to share either local spots that they want to support through Whisk and Brush, or if have artists or they themselves are an artist or anything like that. I mean, we really want to expand outside of our community here as much as we can so that the support can have a rippling effect. And, that's something that we're super excited about. So for right now, I would say, people can get involved through social media. Mm-hmm. And then once the website goes live, there will be goodies posted there.
Cool. That's awesome.